Hello everybody, thank you for watching these. I so appreciate you, you have no idea. I have some really big news that I'm going to announce later on this week. I'm super excited about it, and I hope that you will be there watching these when I announce that. But I have a different announcement to make right now. I am going to be doing natal chart readings through No Crutches Holistic Care in Oshkosh. I'm so excited about that. Please contact me if you'd like your natal chart read. And in addition to doing it at No Crutches, I'm also going to be doing them virtually as well, because I know that a lot of people may not be able to make it, or they may live out of town. So just please let me know. I love doing it, and I really love being able to just look at someone's chart and be like, this is this. And then having them just confirm it for me and be like, yes, you are right, that did happen, or I did experience something similar to that. So it's just, and I don't just go by what Google says and whatnot and what books say. I get to know a little bit about each sign, each planet, because with astrology, you can never learn everything. So I get to know things, I get to learn things, and then I meditate on it, and then intuitively I am able to kind of say, I believe that this person went through this because of these signs. So my birth chart reading, I think some people do it like that, and that's the direction that I'm going in. So yeah, there's that. Super excited about that. And maybe by listening to what I talk about now, you will be like more inclined to have your birth chart read. I'm going to talk about retrograding planets. Retrograding planets, because a lot of people hear it. I know that I didn't know what it was for the longest time. I was just kind of like, yeah, Mercury retrograde, so retrograde just means that Mercury retrograde is like the most popular one. That's why I mentioned that one. And forgive me, I'm kind of stuffy right now. I am in the process of getting over an illness. It allowed me to rest though, so I really appreciate that. But anyway, so retrograding planets just mean that a lot of people think that they go backwards. They don't go backwards. They actually just kind of stay in one spot. And so instead of orbiting, they just kind of stay in one spot, or they appear to us that they're staying in one spot. However, the energy affects us regardless of if they're staying in one spot, if they're going backwards, or whatever. The energy that they are producing affects us. So the three planets right now, actually, one of them isn't a planet, one of them is a comet, but the three that are in retrograde right now are Mars, which is in retrograde in Gemini, Uranus, which is in retrograde in Taurus, and then Chiron, which is in retrograde in Aries right now. All right, what does all of that mean, right? Okay, and so the significance of a birth chart, I'm just going to throw this out there right now. The significance of a birth chart is knowing where your planets lie in your birth chart, and then when the planets come through, when they transit, because the planets are constantly moving, right? So then when they transit through, you kind of already have a map of your birth chart, so then you can kind of see how the planets are going to affect you. And I will go into more detail about this a little bit later. So in my last video about the full moon, I did talk about Mars retrograde. So Mars is retrograding right now in Gemini. Mars is known for being the planet of war, masculinity, but also the planet of action, the planet of determination. Mars, as much as it's known for being a negative planet because of war, it's also known for being a more positive planet because it's determined and it puts things into action. But it also is the planet of conflict. So there's that. And then we'll look at Gemini. Gemini is a sign of duality. The sign for the symbol for Gemini is actually the twins. So this doesn't just mean that, like, a lot of people think that Geminis have the tendency to be more, I hate this term, but bipolar, and that's not true. It's just that they like having multiple things of one thing. So whereas some people would only want to have one job, Geminis may have two. If one people just are, they become something and that is their career in life, Geminis may switch back and forth between careers. That's just what they're known for. They're known for change. Change is not a bad thing. Gemini is also known for being persuasive, curious, and also known for having very good communication skills and being a clever speaker. So with Mars retrograding right now in Gemini, this may appear outwardly as somebody, or as like conflict in communication, more conflict, and just being snappier and just not being able to control it as much, and to just really kind of being at a verbal war with people a little bit more than usual. This fortunately ends on January 12th, 2023. So like I said in the last video, I have noticed that since, and it's not like I was like, oh, Mars is in retrograde right now, so I'm going to allow myself to do this. No, it wasn't until I found out that Mars was in retrograde, until I looked back, and I was like, wow, I was being a little bit out of hand for a little while. And not that it's an excuse, but I know now why I was doing things, why I was feeling certain ways, because I just kept thinking to myself, where is this coming from? Like, this isn't normally how I feel, how I've been feeling, how I've been processing things. So that's just kind of that in a nutshell. What we can do for it is we can take our time with things. We can transmute all of these negative emotions that we're feeling, change them into positive emotions, change them into self-love, and to just really take our time with talking to people. And if you're mad, don't have a conversation right now. The conversation, just in general, if you're angry or upset, there's no resolution in having a conversation when you're angry or upset. So I really encourage you to just take your time, to just slow things down, and to just really, really think about whether or not you want to say certain things that you're thinking about saying, because you know you are. All right. The next one that I'll talk about is Uranus in retrograde. So Uranus is in retrograde in Taurus. Okay. Uranus is more of a generational thing. It's not so much of an individual type thing. Well, it can be, at least. So Uranus is a planet of innovation. It's a planet of change, originality. It's revolutionary, and it's also known for being very rebellious as well. It can be very unpredictable as well, and it can throw a lot of surprises at you. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and so I resonate with this because I'm an Aquarius. Okay, and then Taurus. Taurus is the symbol for Taurus is actually the bull. So in addition to being like kind of bullheaded, Taurus is also known for being very driven, tenacious, and Tauruses are known for being a little bit temperamental as well. Taurus is ruled by the second house. And the second house is the house of possessions, food, and that's food or money, and other possessions that you may have. It's, yeah, food or money, basically. Because other things aren't really possessions, like your kids and relationships and things like that. That's not possessions. So it's food and money. So with Uranus being in retrograde in Taurus, okay, so first I want to say that with Taurus, with Uranus entering Taurus, Uranus is so far from the Earth and so far from the Sun that the orbit around the Sun takes much longer. So with Uranus being in Taurus right now, it will actually be in Taurus until April 27th, 2026. And the significance of Uranus being in Taurus is it's revolutionary, right? It's change. What's happened to the cost of food? What's happened to the cost of living? It's all gone up. It's all been changing. It's Uranus is full of surprises. Sorry, that was really immature, but it was funny. But even with like just there being like a baby formula shortage, like how scary. I'm very fortunate that I don't have a baby right now that depends on formula. But I couldn't imagine trying to have a newborn baby and not having enough formula to feed it. And not everybody produces breast milk, so don't say that. Don't tell a mother that she can just feed her baby via breast milk, because not everybody can produce it. And regardless of if they can or not everybody wants to breastfeed. Sorry, that's a little tangent, but okay. So this might appear as like a food shortage, increased cost of living, and just we can also though look at it from a different point of view. We can also reflect on it, and we can say, what are we gaining from this? And with this, we're gaining more. A lot of us are gaining more community throughout this because of the food shortage, because we're inviting more people over to our homes to eat with us. More people are like coming to other people's homes to stay with them for short amounts of times or long amounts of times, whether or not that's a good or bad thing. It's just, I feel like it's also bringing us together as much as it's dividing us. It all depends on the way that you look at it, whether or not you want to see it as a beautiful thing or whether or not you want to dwell on the negatives about it. Another thing about Taurus right now is that the North Node is in Taurus. So there are 4 nodes of destiny. The North Node is what, there are 4 nodes. Okay, yeah, they're nodes of destiny. Sorry, I read my notes. I'm reading my notes and not trying to like look down the whole entire time. The North Node changes signs every 18 months. And the significance of the North Node is that is where our destiny lies. So there's a lot of positivity, even though there's a lot of surprises and there's a lot of like things that we aren't like surprises and a lot of things that we aren't expecting. And there's a lot of change, and there's just, it can be a positive thing as well. Revolution does not always mean bad, because whenever I think of revolutionary, I think of Revolutionary War. But I mean, that wasn't necessarily. I'm not gonna even go into that right now. But yeah, so Uranus retrograde will be ending on January 22nd, 2023, fortunately. So hopefully when Uranus ends its retrograde, everything with food and high cost of living, I know that it will not come down dramatically within that amount of time, but hopefully things will start to calm down a little bit, and then hopefully we'll be on a downslope. But 2026, hopefully in 2026, this will be the time when better things start happening regarding the cost of living and regarding food. maybe by 2026, everybody will be in individual communes and surviving for themselves, and we won't be governed by the government. That would be fantastic. One can dream, right? Yes, that's the Aquarius in me. All right. So now I'm going to talk about Chiron retrograde. Chiron, I have a video about Chiron a couple videos back. Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron was a centaur, and what I didn't include in that video was the way that Chiron died. Chiron was actually supposed to be immortal, but he died. And the way that he died was because he went to save Hercules. And while he was fighting, the people who were fighting Hercules shot poison arrows at Hercules. Chiron steps in the way and he was shot with a poisonous arrow. He could have fixed himself because he was a healer. He was a psychic and he was good with all of these things. He could have fixed himself. However, Apollo and Chiron went to the gods and they asked if Chiron could just die because Chiron didn't want to live like that anymore. Hence, wounded healer. I think it's beautiful. Sorry. I love Chiron. So since Chiron is actually the wounded healer, Chiron being in retrograde isn't always a horrible thing. And it being in Aries, so Aries is known, a lot of Aries get bad raps, but Aries aren't too bad. I love Aries. So Aries are known for being leaders. They want to lead. They do not want to follow at all by any means. They want to do things their way. They're very independent in most cases. And Aries are a sign of new beginnings. But then they can also be kind of stubborn. And they're ruled by Mars. Isn't that weird? Because Mars is in retrograde right now. So I'm sorry, Aries, you're probably feeling a really double whammy right now with all of this intense emotion with everything going on right now. And I apologize, and I am sending so much positivity out to you right now. But so Chiron being in retrograde in Aries may appear as an urgent need to fix yourself, to see all of these things wrong with you right now, or to see where all of your woundings are, and to be like, I need to fix all of this right now. I need to do it right now. Chiron being in retrograde in Aries can lead to people being very impatient and just being very impulsive as well. I know that I've been impulsive, but it's okay. Chiron being in retrograde can also kind of appear as like us wanting a new beginning so much that we just let go of whatever we are in. Like, for instance, people may be quitting their jobs. People may be ending relationships really dramatically or very abruptly. People may just be moving out of their homes very abruptly. There's just so much that can come into play with Chiron being in retrograde in Aries. So what we can do right now for this is we can do shadow work, transmutation of energy. I cannot even tell you how important alchemy is right now. Taking all of those negative, impatient, kind of stubborn feelings and transmuting them into just self-love. Like self-love, people, that's where it's at right now. We can use this to our advantage as well, though, because as Aries is the planet, or Aries is the sign of leadership, we can really take a step into a leadership role, and we can really put into initiative healing ourselves. All right, so the importance of knowing your birth chart, or your natal chart, birth chart, the two terms are used. The two terms are used together a lot. They mean the same thing. So within my natal chart, and I mentioned this in the Chiron video that I made, my Chiron is in Gemini. So, a few weeks ago, they were direct. So they lined up where my Chiron, the degree in which my Chiron is placed in Gemini at the time of my birth, actually lined up perfectly with transiting. So the way that Mars was moving around, was orbiting, it lined up perfectly, as it always does with every sign. But the importance of this is that it really, and I looked this up and I was like, wow, that resonates, so I'm sharing. But it really created this initiative within myself, or within me, to really want to do shadow work, hardcore shadow work, so that I could heal my wounds, so that I could heal myself, so I could be in a better spot, like just so that I could be more confident, and so I could love myself more, so I could learn to love myself more, learn to love every aspect of me, every aspect that I was made fun of as a child, I love in myself now. Every negative thing that I've done in my life, I love and appreciate those moments. I don't love that I did it, but I love and appreciate what I've learned from it. I would not be who I am today if it were not for everything that had happened in my life. So I'm doing all of this shadow work right now. I'm doing a shadow work workshop soon in February, and I'm just really tying everything together. And when I read that, when I found that out, I was just like, this is just insane how much this resonates. If I didn't believe in astrology then, or before that, I mean, I did, but I would definitely be a believer now. It's just, there's just so much, and just with shadow work and just with the way that I communicate now versus the way I communicated prior to all of this, it's just, I think a little bit more before I talk. I try not to be so impulsive with my words. That's probably the Aquarius in me. But I'm doing so much more now that I didn't do before, and I really feel like it's because of this. It's because of Mars being in Gemini and retrograding, and Chiron being in Aries and retrograding, and it's just everything is tying together. And if you would like me to help you with your birth chart so that you can know where your Chiron is placed, so that you can know when a planet will be transiting past your Chiron natally, please let me know. I will be more than happy to do your birth chart for you. So yes, this was I could have gone for so much longer, but this is my video on Mars retrograde in Gemini. What other one was there? Uranus retrograde in Taurus, and Chiron retrograde in Aries. So thank you so much for watching these. I love you all so much. I'm sorry for being so nasally in this one. Hopefully the one that I do later on this week will not be so bad. All right. I love you guys so much. Have a good night.